Me and you had to like figure some stuff out. You had to go work at the solar job, which was great. Like you made like 15,000 and like
A month?
a month, a month, and then it helped your situation. But then you got fired. But during that process, you ended up
Selling him
selling
on working
him
there.
on working there. So it was meant to be. Like it was meant for you to figure out your situation in the short term, but also be able to cause he's like one or two like in the state. He's the top solar person in all of Indiana.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mind Fluxed podcast. Today we have a very special guest, and if it's your first time listening, this is a show for creators and doers, for people who want more, and they're not going to let anyone stop them from getting it. If this is your first time listening, then understand our episodes are tools. We talk about how to think, and our guests, concepts, and ideas are a resource for you to use to move forward and take a step in the right direction. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe, and based on the value you get from this episode, leave us some reviews on iTunes. I'm one of your hosts, Tristan. We are produced by Benji Got Beats, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Josh Matthews.
And should I pass the introduction to you, man? I don't even know how we can properly introduce this man.
Yeah, sure.
There's so much.
So I got a funny story.
Okay, this will do it.
Yeah. So right here we got Michael Bacon. So he's like one of our best friends. For the past how long we know each other? Like five years.
Going on 6, 7.
Something like that. And so the funny story, first time I met Michael, it was in college. That's how we met. It was my freshman year. I think he was like a grade or two grades ahead of me. But we first met. I went to a network marketing event. So the company I just got connected with the people on campus, and had our first event of the school year. And I go in, and then I just meet everybody. So I got everybody's contact information through Snapchat.
Oh.
And I did, but I forgot everybody's name. So I just went by their appearances, and I put in my Snapchat what I just noticed about them for the first time. So one guy we all know, his name is Jalen. I put him as glasses. I put because he had on glasses. I put this other guy. I forgot what I put for him, but for Michael, I put fade because he had a fresh ass cut. So I just put fade, and it's still his Snapchat name till this day. I promise you.
Even though I'm bald now.
Yeah, he's bald now.
Now we got to change the contact.
But with that being said, Michael, he's one of our best friends. But not only that, he's someone that I looked up to. When I first met him, kind of a big brother or whatnot, and just someone who's very driven, someone who's very persistent towards getting what they want, and even if obstacles come towards his way, he finds a way to get over them. And still, come out on top, and then also help the people that he cares about along the way. So with that, man, Michael Bacon.
Welcome, man.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, man.
What up, man?
I'm so excited. We've been waiting on this for a minute. As soon as we launched the show, I remember Cousin. So we call him Cousin, by the way. I don't even know how to say Michael properly. I know so many people named Michael too, so Cousin is definitely the wave. But I remember when we first started the show, you were like, "You have to get me on an episode," and we were like, "In due time." We didn't want to we didn't want to rush it because we were all going through so many transitions and changes, and that's what this show is about, right? It's about people who are on the journey, sharing their experiences while they're on it, right? It's a resource to look at, to say, this is what we actually did. This is what we're actually doing. We're not going to glow up and in 20 years tell you what you should do looking in the past, right? From, sitting on a high horse or a high seat. So I just kind of want to ask you about that, the change. When did, the switch flip from you, for you? When you go from, say, your town or your high school or your whatever to, I'm no longer under my parents' roof, or I'm no longer under anyone's control but my own. You really walk in your own lane. When did that switch? When did that change happen for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy you said that because I still remember the day like it was yesterday when I made that switch. And it was more I feel like I had to. It wasn't something I should probably make this switch. It was I felt like I was forced to. I was probably 16, and I was just kind of living a lifestyle that wasn't going to benefit me in the future, to keep it simple. And I was laying in bed. It was probably like midnight, 1 o'clock. Like it was summer before senior year in high school, and a lot of things that happened before that night that caused me to be in this like deep thought trance. And I'm laying in bed. I'm like, man. I'm like, I was literally standing. I was laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and I'm like, man, like something's got to change. You know, like I'm kind of looking at the things I'm doing, and I think this is the first time I really like looked into the future and kind of like really imagined myself where I was going to be based off of my current actions, and it scared the hell out of me because I'm like, man, like if I graduate high school, what next? And I was looking at everybody else who pretty much took that path in my city, and I realized I got to change something ASAP. So that night, I was brainstorming. I'm like, okay, how am I gonna get out of this situation? And a light bulb went off, and I was like, I'm gonna move with my aunt. Her son, my cousin Yadi, he was on this podcast, and I hit him up. I'm like, bro, I'm moving in with you. And
You didn't ask. I didn't hit him up and ask. I hit him and told him I'm moving in.
I did not ask any questions. I'm like, bro, I'm moving in with you. Because a little background on that. I mean, he came from like he was at a better school district. To keep it simple, you know, just a lot. It was just a lot of potential there. So I was like, this is my way to at least graduate high school and get potential to at least start applying for colleges. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do in college. I had nobody to look up to who went to college before me, so I just knew this was it. And I had like, you know, younger sisters who was looking after me, so I felt like this is something I need to do. So to answer your question, I was like 16, 17 when I made the decision to like just change my life. And I've just been going since.
Dang.
Yeah.
And one thing that I admire about Michael, that's what I call him by his nickname. One thing I admire about Michael is that, you know, he makes decisions like that, and that's like he did that once in his life, but he also did it again, like when you like move across the country, like
To California.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is you opened up the possibility for other people, like somebody like Bloss, too. Which shout out to Bloss, by the way. Like, yeah. Go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt, step on you, but it's the same. Like, I think the same thing. Like, he's like the oldest in the group, but only by like a year. And he always it's kind of crazy. Like, if you pay attention, like, you have led us down this path in a sense. You know, this was my first exposure too with network marketing, with everything was through you. So I think like that is something to be recognized.
yeah, and like with that, like, you know, I'll let you get into the story, like in terms of like your mindset behind the whole thing. But like literally, we were in Terre Haute. It was, you've already graduated. I was there for the summer or whatnot. But like, cuz made the decision to move across the country to California. So like, tell us a little bit about that change in terms of like, what made you make that decision? Because like, you literally just had like a suitcase and you left.
Weren't you working at Sony too? Like the night shift?
Yeah, so that is everything kind of aligned in place. When I made that decision, I graduated college. I pretty much checked everything off the list that I had for myself by that time in life that I felt like I couldn't have accomplished, but I still made it happen. So then I was kind of like, you know, what next? Let's try something different. Let's just keep this ball rolling and get out my comfort zone even more. And yeah, I was ending my process with Sony because that contract was ending with them. And so it was like either go home, start a life in Indianapolis, or just do something that everybody else was doing at the school. And I'm like, man, that's boring. I don't have any kids. I don't have a mortgage. I have nothing tying me down. So I made the decision after I graduated, probably like a month or two before I actually made the move. I was like, I'm going to California. Let's try it out. Everybody wants to go. Quit dreaming and let's just try it. You know, worst case, I take a plane ticket back home. You know?
Right.
So yeah, I sold everything. If it didn't fit in the suitcase, I didn't take it. And I moved out there with $200 in my pocket and no idea what I was going to do next.
But then what happened?
Everything. Okay, so yeah, so
Because it would sound like when you would call back, it's like sometimes you were living life, and other times it's like I don't know if California's a move.
Yeah, when I first moved there, I got introduced. So I moved to San Luis Obispo. So side note, check out that city. Check out that city.
I never heard of that. It's just funny.
It's like a small town
like a soup.
surrounded by like. It's like a small town surrounded by mountains. It's like something out of a movie. But I actually did a work stay at a hostel there, an international hostel. So before that, only thing I knew about hostels was the scary movie. So I'm like, this ain't really the move. I'm gonna try it anyways. But it ended up being like one of the best experiences I had. Kind of like the smallest fraction of travel in the world for me, because there's other people from around the world traveling to that destination. So yeah, I moved out there, and it was a struggle. As much as I was enjoying myself, it was not something everybody would do. I wouldn't recommend everybody to do it the way I did it to make a move like that. But that's how I'm able to like work. You know, when I have my back against the wall, I know the only way I can go is forward. And so, yeah, I mean, my back was against the wall when I first moved out there. You know, I had no idea what I was going to do. I had a little bit of money, but I made it happen.
So like, what are some things that like you experienced, like, or like, because during that process, because obviously that is hard, especially if you go out there with like little to no money, not really having like anything set up. You're just like going, just you in a suitcase. So like, in terms of like making that jump and making that leap, like, what are some things that like happened and that just stood out to you that that you overcame that like made you like better?
Yeah, because there was a lot of bumps in the roads going into that. A lot of things that stood out was, I mean, the first thing was just to survive. It was like literally like I'm either gonna be homeless or I'm gonna make this happen. And when you have a mindset like that, it really opens up. Like you literally attract things that you need to pull into your life to give you the resources you need. Like it's kind of crazy how life works. But I mean, some of the things that stood out was like when I was making my transition there, I actually lost all my money. Somebody stole my money. It was a whole thing. I did like some work. Long story short, my bank account got shut down in the middle of me trying to figure out my living situation. So now I have $0. I have to make a decision on like where I'm gonna live in the next week. So that right there is probably the most pressure I've had when I was in that trip, because like I had everything lined up and I thought everything was going well. That happened. It was a right hook, you know. And I guess, I mean, you really got to keep your mind on the ball. Even when things like that happen, you can't let that like be like your life. You got to be like, okay, this is something that happened today, but I'm still gonna be there tomorrow.
Right.
And so every day I was just waking up and just getting closer and closer. And that was a grind in its own. But I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that stood out in my transition to moving to California. Was like there was a moment where I was about to be homeless. There was no buying no plane ticket back when it happened. I had no money.
Right.
So that was a lot of pressure, but it all played out for itself. And it was a blessing how it well played out.
Did you only have that one bank account?
Yeah.
So like, even if somebody sent you money, you couldn't get it.
I had nothing.
So like, so that left you with like nothing to do but ask the people that are around you for help, right? Like in the hostel or what?
No. So it really was do or die still. I mean, everybody had their own lives and stuff. So I mean, not to make it sound bad, but they didn't care what I was going through. I never made that a thing either. Nobody really knew what I was going through. I just knew that I had to handle this situation right now. So I was able to, because my bank account got canceled. And so all my money got sent back to my mailing address that they had back in Indiana. So I knew I wasn't going to see that money for at least a couple weeks, at least just, because I even had to mail it back. So I got a job at a ramen noodle shop. It was like a Chinese ramen noodle shop ran by Mexicans. It was weird. I was able to learn a lot of Spanish while I was in there, because they spoke no English.
Cooking ramen. That's funny.
Yeah, so I was in the ramen noodle shop just to kind of make some extra cash, as I was figuring out things. And within that week, I mean, everything kind of just turned around. Well, I'll say like 2 weeks, everything kind of turned around pretty quick.
And nobody knew. We were just like, man, cousins in California now, living life. Like,
I don't like to express my struggle too much, unless it's like my inner circle, like y'all would know. But even in that situation, nobody knew. I'm very secluded with like my struggles and whatnot, because I know everybody else has their own struggles. I'm not trying to put mine on anybody else. So I just know how to handle it. If I wasn't going to handle it, then it was going to be a problem at that point. Yeah,
that's terrifying. So like the most similar thing that ever happened to me is like I literally also took $200 with me to Europe. And also, like, I swiped a plane ticket on my credit card the week before the flight was leaving. Like, I just made the decision to go. I was in, like, the worst state mentally. So I was like, well, I can go away.
Refresh.
Right? So, like, I booked a plane ticket, and I was landed in Milan, Italy. The only thing was the airport was an hour away from the Airbnb I was supposed to be at. And I landed at 11:30, so all public transportation was down. And my phone was dead.
It was dead.
And I didn't pack a charger because I didn't prepare for this trip because I did it, but I was like, I'll survive. Like, worst case happen, I'll survive. As long as I can get to my flight home, I'll be good, right? So I took $200 in cash and my credit cards. And I'd already basically maxed out my credit card on the trick. It was just not the smart decision, but I had to do it. I don't know why. I just felt called to do it. And I got in a taxi. Dude, first of all, these taxi drivers were sketch. Like, they were all leaned up against the outside of the airport, smoking cigs, neck tattoos, speaking Italian, but their cars were crisp. Like, so I walk up to the taxi thinking that these dudes are like normal people waiting on their taxi too. And this dude just walks up and takes my bag and puts it in the back and points to me to get in the front seat.
With the tats and everything.
Bro, scary dude. And we started driving. I had a paper. Luckily, I wrote my address down because I knew it was going to die. I didn't know it was a 40-minute ride. Damn. I had 200 euro or 250 euro. My taxi was 230.
Really?
Dude, I had 20 euro, which is equivalent to like, what, $30
Yeah.
for 9 days in Europe.
And you was not expecting that, obviously.
Dude, I lost it all the first day. I felt like I was robbed because I had it in cash. And I looked at it. I tried to read it like there was a missing decimal place and give him like 24 or 23. And he took it out of my hand and counted it out loud.
Wow.
And then took it from me and pushed me out of the car.
Wow.
And I couldn't run. What's crazy, when he took my bag, I tried to put it in my front seat. So that way I could, like, if I had to, I would at least have my bag. But yeah, so that's the closest thing I had to it. But I remember that moment was terrifying. And that was like the point. It's like I'm terrified, but I'm here.
Figure it out,
yeah, this is like 3 years ago. I'm here. I'm cool, right? And I've had that back against the wall multiple times. And that's why, like, I kind of like that story, because you literally lost it all, but you didn't like try to find your next fastest way home. You're like, I'm here now. I'm going to figure out how to move forward.
Exactly.
I'm not going back. I made the decision to be here, and you still moved forward. So like, that's what I admire about that situation. Because I could have just stayed at the airport, right? And easily waited it out and flew back. But I like when people bring that presence and say, I'm here. Like, I made the decision. I jumped off. There's no going back. I'm not half in, half out. There's no both sides of the fence. Like, we're here now.
Exactly.
Now what? And I think that's honestly when you get the best growth. Because, like, I learned so much about myself in those 9 days with nothing.
I bet.
Dude, I couldn't buy water. Like I thought I was going to die. But, yeah, it's just I really, like, commend you for that, too, because most people freak out.
Sure.
And you handled it well. And then you continued to move, right? Like, when did you get to San Diego? Like, how long after that?
So when I first moved to San Luis Obispo, that soup place.
And you have ramen.
Yeah. And I was there for 2 months. And I was just applying for places. Like, because I didn't know anything about California. I had no plans. So I'm applying for places in San Diego, LA, San Francisco, as if, like, they're all close or something. And I ended up getting the job offer in San Diego and got approved for a home offer, or to rent, the same day. So that was a celebration that day. And so when I got that offer, I moved to San Diego, and which actually, so that story I told you guys where I lost my money and whatnot, that happened as I got the job offer. And so, like, I'm like, oh, I got everything together, let's go. And then I lost my money. So I'm like, how am I supposed to do this within a week or two? And then all that I told you happened between there. So then I moved to San Diego 2 months after that. And then it was pretty much just uphill from at that point.
Nice.
Damn.
Yeah.
So like, what? And I'm enjoying myself right now, because right now I'm like having like a full circle moment of like, damn, like we literally all started together, like literally, and to see like how things are like happening now. So like, for people listening, I just want to ask, like, what drives you? Because one thing that I notice about you, like, you're very like consistent, persistent on your journey. Like, you have a why, and like, even like when I talk about like we went through. We have stories. Like, we can honestly be on this podcast and like talk all day, because like we have stories from driving up to Chicago just so we can go to Canada to get passports, and which that's a whole story in itself. To just a bunch of different things. But like, for you, like, one thing that I see is like, no matter what, you're gonna make it happen, whatever it is. Like, once you put your mind to something, you're gonna make it happen. So like, what is it that drives you to have that mindset?
Family. It comes down to just family for me. I'm pretty simple. I'm not a complex person. I don't have like a lot of reasonings why I do things. At the end of the day, for me, it's family, and not just like blood relatives, but like y'all, people who I consider to be in my life. That's what motivates me. That's what inspires me, because I know I'm not just doing these things for me. I know that whatever I do, it will impact my circle of people, and I want to be sure that everything that I do elevates. It's not degrading and going back. And that's just based off, like, the experience I had in my past life. Cause I'm very observant. I watch people. And, I watched how my parents moved. I watched how my grandparents moved. And there's a lot of things that, they did that I just didn't necessarily agree with in reference to just becoming better as an individual. So I learned from their mistakes and just applied it to my life. So, family would be my biggest inspiration.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool how Josh said we started together, and like we kind of created like our own miniature family. Like, we have a really close knit, but like everybody's doing like Like we ran the errand all the time, like random places, like the world's most random man. Like he's just everywhere.
Random as hell.
And we should have him on as well. And he's down on his lane. And then Bloss too. Like when you said you were moving to California, Bloss is like me too, right? Yeah. But you came back before he left, so we were like, "Oh, it's never gonna happen," because it was like, you and Bloss were like a dynamic duo. Right. And then there's me and Josh as well. And like Bloss is like just like me, like the whitest dude ever. So it was like it was really funny that we had that. And now he's out there and he's living his best life.
I haven't heard from him. I don't even hear from him.
Yeah, we don't hear from him no more.
He's living his best life. But that's the thing is like one thing we talked about on our last episode is, you know, making those decisions to change, to say that you don't like your past and to inspire to do something different. And when you can inspire your friends and family to go after something different, and you start to get those calls and texts like, how do I get started? I want to feel like what you feel. I want to do it like you do. I'm not perfect yet, and I know you aren't either, but I want to get started. How do I get started? Yeah. And that's what like I want to ask you is like, because you know, being introduced to that idea when you're looking at the ceiling is like, well, if I don't do something different, I'm only gonna end up in a few places, right? And how did you actually, other than, of course, saying you're gonna move, how did you get started, like digging into yourself and like taking on that journey? Because then that rubbed off on Josh, and then Josh had that rub off on me, and it's like, that's just crazy to think. Like we probably all would be doing something similar to what we're doing now, just naturally. But at the same time, there's something about how it happened that seems like how you can directly tie the inspiration. So like, what did you do to start to bring those pieces out and be like, oh, like I'm my own person, like Michael. I'm not my past. I'm not those things.
I think again, I've kind of already had that mindset forever. As I grew up and, you know, educated myself more and experienced more in life, I became more aware of that intuition, I guess. But really, I mean, you just have to stop for a while and just kind of evaluate yourself, your life, like where you're at. Like if you just keep moving and just keep doing things, you're not like looking at the trail you're leaving behind. You're not going to really see what direction you're going. You're just kind of shooting in the dark. So, I mean, again, it goes back to that day where I made the decision to move from home, and it was like me just evaluate, just sitting down and seeing what I've done, where I'm at now, and if I keep doing this, where I'm gonna be at tomorrow. Simple as that. And if you don't like where you're going to end up tomorrow, what can you do today to change that? What steps, what directions can you change to get closer to that step?
Yeah, and I like that answer because it's like, you don't know. Yeah. And for everybody out there listening, you don't know how to start. You just have to start accepting better. Oh, that sounds like a better idea than what I'm exposed to. That book, that person's got more than what I've got, and they said that book is good. So I'm going to do that book. Exactly. Like, I'm going to listen to this guy. I'm going to listen to this girl. Like, I'm going to follow better, right? And just be better. Like, that's the only way to change is to change. Yeah. I just think that that's cool, like, that it is that simple. It is. It really is. Just, like, deciding that it's different. And now we have, like, a core group of people that as we all go our separate paths, what's kind of cool is we're all leading our own miniature, like, communities that we know are, like, going to come back together. Exactly. That's really cool to me. Like, it's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah. So, for you, you moved to California, and obviously you're back here now. So, like, what was that next transition like? So, what was your thought process behind that? Because it's crazy because him and Yachty are just like, they just get up and go.
Coast to coast.
Because honestly, like, I couldn't, me personally, I probably could, but I don't think I can pack up a suitcase and with little or no money and just go. Like, I'm not that big on change, like, in terms of, like, a drastic change like that. Right. That's pretty...
It is.
And him and Yachty have done it multiple times in their life. He's like, hey, Yachty, I'm moving in. Like, instantly. And then Yachty went back and forth, and you've been back and forth. Like,
Yeah, so, like, what was that next decision? Like, okay, I've been out here in San Diego. I've been living my life. Okay, but now I need to go home.
Yeah, so actually, I'm going to be real with you guys. So, going home was kind of already in the plans, just because, like, San Diego, it was something I wanted to do. It wasn't like, I'm going to be here forever. I'm just going to ride this train until it's time for me to hop off. And I was kind of feeling the time to hop off just because, like, I wanted to do more than what I was doing there. And I couldn't really do it there. And this is in reference to real estate. You know, real estate's a passion of mine. So, you know, I wanted to start putting my own capital, my own experience, my own efforts into real estate. But I couldn't do it there. So I knew that coming back home, that's the place to do it just because right now the market here is hot. Property's a lot cheaper. A garage in San Diego is $1 million. So you can't really, you know, start there with baby money. So I was coming up with this plan, and I was actually stalling on it. You know, as much as I do to like, just take action, I was stalling on this for a while. Just because like I was so happy with San Diego and where I'm at. And I'm like, do I really want to go back to Indiana, back to this lifestyle that I kind of like, you know, want to separate myself from for a while. So I was praying on it, and God, the higher power, energy, whatever you know you call it, He woke me up. He shook me because I was taking too long to make the decision. And what I mean by that is, I was doing so where I was in the mortgage industry in San Diego, out there for about 3 years almost, and doing well. What I was doing, I was a loan officer for the first half of the time I was there, so I was selling the mortgages. The second half, I was in underwriting, so I was like, I wanted to figure out how do we actually put the mortgage together, like with the numbers behind it. So I did that, and so as people may know, you know, the market in real estate fluctuates. Like 2008, you know, it went down. Everybody got hurt from it, and we're kind of in that market now, not as drastic. And so with that, as the market fluctuates, companies have to fluctuate. So they have to do layoffs. They have to do all those types of things. And so with the company I was with, I mean, they pretty much laid off half their company like in that day. It was it was crazy how it happened. That's a whole conversation in its own. But that was the first time I was ever in the office, like a real like professional setting, and seeing how that went down. I was like, whoa, I do not want to be part of this no more. So when that happened, I'm like, okay, thank you God, you know, for getting me laid off because this is what I needed to like make this is the push I needed. So I actually spent about 2 months in San Diego before, I think it's about 2 months. After that whole situation happened, I just spent like 2 months there just to kind of enjoy myself in San Diego. I kind of get the last hoorah before I made the decision to move back home to get into real estate. So I moved back in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what's cool about that is like not only do markets and different things go like up and down, but it's kind of like in the group message. I'm sure we could like go back to it. You were like, "Hey, I'm gonna move to LA soon. I'm gonna get promoted soon." Like it was like, and that's how we all feel when things like are finally working out, working out. But in the back of our mind, we have what we really want to do, right? And it was already in the back of your mind. But hey, this is still working out. Good. Like, get ready, guys. You guys are about to come out to LA. Like, it's about to be fun. I'm about to get this job. We're about to move this position. I'm coming back.
Yeah.
Fast, you know, because that's what you already knew you were going to do. And I think it's so important to do like what you already know you're going to do, or you already know you need to do fast. Like, for me, for example, moved to Indianapolis so we could continue our business. Had my son, had his mom here, a boatload of expenses that I did not necessarily have to have. Like, I'm lucky enough that I've got people, a distant family, and people I call family, and actual family that I could live with and crash with and at least save my money. You know what I mean? And I'd always had it in the back of my mind of like, I could probably move and like make this work. But I was like, nope, I got to do it the hard way. Sign me up, got to do it the hard way. And I survived and fought through for like almost a year and a half, 2 years. Ultimately just ended up moving anyways. I just recently moved to Louisville. So it's like I already knew that was kind of coming though in the back of my mind of like, I'm going to need a break and I'm going to need some time before I make another big move. Like, I already see us working remotely, so we're going to have to figure it out. But I never made that. And then it was forced to happen. And it's kind of like, man, it's like, I think it's that quote by Oprah. It's like, you know, life is hard and it'll make you keep relearning the lesson until you learn the lesson, and it's gonna happen by force, like whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
So I just think that that's interesting because here we are, like here in the group message, like planning for LA's, and we didn't know though that you were coming right back, like, but that was in the back of your mind, and because that's what you really knew you wanted and needed, it happened whether you liked it or not.
Yep, and it happened. I mean, and timing is always perfect, even when you don't think it's gonna be. It's always perfect, and yeah, I mean, so when I moved back, obviously I moved back with you. And so, I mean, with me, I feel like every time, like, you know, I have to make it, you kind of already hit on the point, though, but like, I feel like you have to go through some type of, not necessarily struggle, but like friction, something that will kind of shake you off your tracks, you know, before you can get the prize you're going for, no matter how big or small it is. And so when I moved back, I went back to that whole friction when I moved back with you, just to kind of get myself back on track.
Yeah.
And now, you know, obviously I'm back on track. So it's these kind of things I don't ever stress about. Even when I'm in the heat of the moment where, like, things are at risk, I don't stress it anymore. And, like, that kind of scares me because I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's like, man, like, I know what it is. This is what it is. You know, I know tomorrow's going to be better. If it's not going to be tomorrow, it'll probably be next week. It's not permanent, whatever it is. So I never get stuck in my struggle. I feel like that's kind of, like, a big thing people need to keep in mind is, like, just because you're struggling right now doesn't mean that's your life. just means you messed up yesterday. So fix today, so tomorrow's not the same thing.
Right. And maybe you didn't mess up. Maybe you're just in transition.
In transition,
Right?
exactly.
Like there's a big transition, and like, shoot, I've got no shame about it. I was like, hey, come move in. When we had no business maxing out that apartment like that. There was like 5 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
Freaking broke as a joke. Like, man, like hurting. But we needed it. We needed to get done. You know what I mean? So we got up, worked out, and we did our thing. And like, I think that is so unique. And then we went to 10X, and it's just like, and then momentum started happening, and then you started working with a solar company that I got fired from, and then like, we just like, it's just so cool to see the transitions, and I just think that like that should not be overlooked because it's like we have this as a unit, so we have so many like hidden stories, and I'm sure everybody listening right now has their group, their friends, their collective, whatever you want to call those people who are just like you. All in your own lane, but they're just like you. And I just think it's cool because we're watching all those transitions happen, and we know we're all going to go down and come back up. We're all going to go down and come back up. It's just part of it. So help each other when we're down, help each other when we're up, and we're good.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we should just like hit on that story because like, so there's a quote that Steve Jobs, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. So like even then, right? So we went to 10X, then, a couple months after 10X, we got our office, like all that stuff started happening. And then, me and you had to like figure some stuff out. You had to go work at the solar job, which was great. Like you made like 15,000 and like
A month.
a month, and then it helped your situation. But then you got fired. But during that process, you ended up
selling him on working
there. So it was meant to be. Like it was meant for you to figure out your situation in the short term, but also be able to like cause he's like one or two like in the state. He's the top solar person in all of Indiana. So and I
taught
think
him everything he knows.
So like it's just like crazy like how all that happens. Like Cuz was saying, Michael.
Do you prefer Michael at this point?
I mean, honestly, when it comes to y'all, I could say Cuz.
Nobody else can call Michael.
That name has been retired.
For those y'all listening, don't call him Cuz, or you getting beat up.
Because you're not his Cuz, okay?
Yeah, but it was just like, all those things like happen for a reason. And now looking back on it, it all makes sense on why it happened the way it happened. Because like now like you're flourishing, like doing your thing, top salesman in Indiana like with solar. So like how does that feel to go from, you had your situation in California, then you moved back, and obviously you were living with Tristan for a little bit.
Which was an uphill battle.
It was a very steep uphill battle.
Yeah, but now to like being a top salesman in solar, which is still baby, like which still hasn't even reached its full potential, and you're already like the top sales rep in all of the state. And so like, what is that whole process feels like? What does that feel like to be able to, I guess, come on top?
It's a blessing. I'm definitely grateful for where I'm at. I thought, I pray about it every day, but honestly, I don't know. It is what it is. It's because I have, and not to like, belittle it or anything. It's just because like I have this big goal for myself that it's so big that everything I'm doing today, it's just, I know that's just getting me to that goal. So it's I don't, even just like I said, I don't sit and fester into my struggles. I also don't necessarily do the same thing for like when I'm on my up, because I know that this is just a process. This is a journey. And I'm grateful for where I'm at, but I know that there's more to come. So I'm just preparing myself for when there's more to come and preparing myself for when the downs happen because, they will come. So, I've been grateful for the whole journey itself.
Yeah, and there's a quote in the You Were Born Rich seminar with Bob Proctor, and I always forget the other guy, but he says like very clearly there's always a season for sowing and there's always a season for reaping. And 100. You can, like, there'll never be the same season. Like, they'll never happen at the same time. And so that transition in California was you sowing some seeds, right? And then that saying that you're coming back as well was like I was like, man, just move in. Like, whatever you need. Like, whatever you need, shoot. It's not much.
You're a real one,
but like, we got it. Yeah. We got that. So don't stress about that. And now sowing those seeds, and then it just turned into like reaping, and now you know that the next level is there's going to be some more sowing. And understanding that though is so critical because so many people on this journey will start to hit a little bit of success, the reaping part, right, the enjoying, and then forget the sowing is coming again. Like Winter always comes back. The farmer has to prepare. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can use all the analogies
It's a
that you
law.
want. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be taxes. It can be a law change. It could be a job change. It could anything, right? So you really have to make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
So now that you are in a better state, how do you take care of yourself? Because I think when people are really down and out, they'll go to YouTube, the motivational videos, they'll read the books, they'll do anything to get out of this situation.
Yeah.
And then when they get out, they stop.
stop.
They stop doing the things that got them there, right? So how do you stay consistent?
Yeah.
Understanding, I know you know that it's here for the moment always, but how do you stay consistent? What do you do now?
I mean, I'm human too, so there's times where I do get lazy and I probably don't do what I need to do, like reading or whatever sometimes. But overall, I try to stay consistent with that, and it's really you just got to keep yourself accountable, man. I mean, like once you go through an experience that scares you or hurts you, or whatever it may be, you don't want to deal with that again. So even when you're like balling, you're winning, like you're on top right now, you still got to be prepared because, like you said, winter is coming. So have a nest egg. Don't necessarily live in fear and live behind doors, but like just be prepared. So when somebody does come hit you with a left hook, you might be able to duck a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, I just try to just keep myself accountable, and again, it's because I always go back to that moment where I made that first decision to change my life because I knew where I could have been if I didn't change that. So I just kind of always have that in the back of my head when I like make these drastic decisions. It's like even when I'm on top, I just have to be prepared. Keep my ammunition up just because I know that will be coming here soon, at some point in my life. Maybe not soon, but
Right.
yeah, hopefully not soon.
Just staying prepared.
Yeah.
So, what is it that? So, I mean, we mentioned because obviously we mentioned like how it all started, kind of where you're at now. So, like for you, where is it like that you're trying to grow to? Like, because I mean, you've been through all these different things, all these different experiences. Like, there's a bunch we haven't even touched on.
Man,
Like,
there's
we'll
so
be
many.
here all day. Like, even
Yeah,
with
we
our
would be here
stories,
for
we
forever.
would be here all day. So, like, for you, like, what's that next level that you see? So, obviously, there's that passion of like real estate, but like, where do you see yourself in terms of your growth? Like, what impact are you trying to make?
Yeah. Again, I'm simple, so it really comes down to just the people that I am impacting up front, which would be family and friends. Because, obviously my end goal is real estate, and with real estate comes a lot of capital. So with that, I, for one, want to make sure that I'm good, make sure that my family's good in terms of upfront, and my future family, kids, whatever it may be. I learned a lot from my grandfather, and he is a very proactive individual. So I like follow him and just kind of see how he does things. And for me, I mean, the next big thing is just to really, because growth. I mean, there's really no end goal in terms of what I'm trying to do. I don't think anybody should ever have an end goal. But throughout this journey, I mean, in terms of just growth for myself, I just want to be more stable. Not necessarily making any more drastic decisions like packing the suitcase and leaving. I feel like that part of my life has kind of died down a little bit. But now I just want to be more stable, just more consistent, just keep everything going because, again, seasons happen. So even when seasons happen, I want to be sure that I'm still on the same level so I don't get affected like that anymore.
Right.
And just, proactive.
So I guess I have one more. I have another question that I think you can really speak on. So like one thing that you mentioned family a lot. So like, and I know that you are big on like helping your family out. Helping their situations. Like you are the person in your family too that everyone looks up to, just like how I am for mine, Tristan is for his. Like, so like, how do you deal with that? Because I think.
Boy, let me tell you.
Because I think this is an important topic to hit on. I think you're very more than qualified to speak on it because, like, I know, like, your family looks up to you, and it's not an easy thing to deal with when everyone looks to you as that person, as the person, and there's nobody else that is the person.
Right.
So, like, how do you deal with that, whatever that may be?
And real quick, too, as you go to answer that, too, for all of our listeners, like, you've always probably felt that naturally. And then when you decide to take it into the driver's seat as well, now you know it's coming, and you still have to be prepared. So I want to, like, add that little piece onto that question because it's like we naturally have stuck out as black sheep, and everybody has in our group and in our community that we're building here with this show. Everybody is a piece of that black sheep in their family and their community, and so but it's different when you also choose to be it on top of it already naturally. So I think that that's important to add on. You've always known it, but now what? How do you deal with it?
How I deal with it? I'm still trying to find necessary outlets for it. As stressful as it can be sometimes, or just not necessarily stressful, but I kind of feel like I have the world on my shoulders. I try to deal with it in ways that make sense to me, whether it's working out. I'm not a big reader. I have books I do read when I do need to, but for me, I'm more of a person that will write things out or just talk with myself. Like if you were like, ever to like walk by my room, or just if I feel like I'm in my own space, you would probably see me talking to myself on some like crazy stuff, But really, just me just talking to myself and keeping myself accountable again, because mental health is kind of something that hits heavy in my family, and it's kind of like crazy to see how people transition when they have like depression or just some kind of like mental illness going on. So for me, I always want to keep my mind sharp, and dealing with these family situations sometimes can hurt my mind, like where I'm at in terms of my stability. So I just try to keep myself sharp. So to answer your question, how do I deal with it? Meditate in a way. I wouldn't necessarily call it like meditate where I'm just crossing my legs and just doing that, but it's just when you're sitting and you're just thinking to yourself, you're clearing your mind, working out, and just continue doing what I'm doing, because I need that. That's what motivates me to do what I need to do. So I kind of put myself even deeper into situations sometimes, or I just help other people. Helping people kind of helps me work out my own situations.
Yeah, and that's the cool part about what you said earlier too, is what drives you is the family. And
Right.
I think for everybody, it starts to grow into that role of like not only being the black sheep, but also being the person who puts the weight on their shoulders, right? Like when things go left, they always call me because I apparently got it right, right?
Right.
But I don't know what I'm doing either. So it's
Yeah.
like I need help too, guys, but who's going to help me, right? So I think that's like a really big responsibility to then willingly take and say, all right, we are going in a different direction. We, right? If you are part of me, then we are going somewhere else. And I might have to drag your ass there, but we're getting there. Like, this is not going to be the same if I'm here. And that's such a, like, tremendous feeling to accept, and because some days it's with intense and immense gratitude. You're so grateful you're in that position, and then other days it's literally like, why God, why me, right? Like but like whoever you talk to is like, and the one thing I literally think of is in that movie Passion of the Christ. There's and there's a quote in the Bible too, but it's just like like forgive them because they don't know what they do. Essentially, they don't know what they're doing,
Right.
and it's literally like, the only way I can describe it is that feeling of waking up like you had when you were looking up at the ceiling, or Josh and I tell our story, is that moment when the switch flipped. It's like that just hasn't happened yet.
Right.
So it's important to know that it will happen for those people in their own time. They will eventually see and follow and then do, and they will have that switch of themselves. And so if you can keep that front of mind, no matter what you're going through, no matter what your family's going through, no matter what you got to lead your people through, just know they will have the switch flip too. It's just going to take more time, and you might be the reason it happens, so you got to keep going. You can't let that stop you.
Solid point. Yeah.
At all.
I agree.
At all.
I agree.
Man, how long has this been, Benji? 42 minutes. That's a solid 42 minutes. Like,
Yeah, and like I said, we could be here all day. 'Cause while we're talking, I just keep having funny stories just pop in my head, like, because it's really crazy that like we literally all like started together, and we stayed close like throughout college and even after it. And what's kept us together is our wanting to be better and to be great. Michael, he was the first person I've ever traveled with. I was the first time I ever rode on a plane. And what's funny about that is that I'll tell the story. I don't know if I ever told you this. So it was me, Michael, and Bloss. We went through the airport, and they said they flew before. They said they flown before. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna follow their footsteps. So you know how you're supposed to check the bag in, at the where you check in at. We took our big check-in bags to the actual like where they scan you and everything. So,
nobody had actually flown before.
No, so nah, man, it was just a lot going on that day. It was a lot going on.
I was so mad. I was so mad because we looked so stupid bringing our big check-in bags through the TSA, and they was like, you.
Like,
what are
y'all
you
doing?
doing? And I was so mad.
He
I was like,
pissed.
bro, I thought y'all flew before.
He was mad. He was looking stupid, man. He was
Wait, I
pissed.
thought y'all flew before.
You feel me? Because I'm the type of person that we gotta act like we know what we doing.
Right.
At least fake it till you make it.
You know what I mean? But I just had to say that. I was
Right,
over here in
man.
my head cracking up about that because it's the first
I've
time I
never heard
traveled.
that story before, but I can imagine the reaction. Because like anytime Josh is dissatisfied, it is
Yeah.
immediate.
Immediate.
Like,
You can
it's
feel
just
it.
like
You
he's
can
like,
feel it.
I'm over this.
Yeah,
It's
bro.
like
His headphones
so
in and everything.
dramatic.
He would hit us with the quiet.
I'm not
treatment.
talking to y'all until we get there.
Exactly.
But so for you, man. So I guess we can just like wrap it up a little because we got, like I said, we got stories, but we don't have the time to go through all those. But for you, like, what is one thing through the things that you've experienced, through the thoughts that you have, like where you want to go? What would you leave our listeners with in terms of something in terms of either making a jump or making certain decisions and doing certain things? Like, what advice would you give to our listeners to help them get to their next level if they're looking to make a change, if they're looking to, or if they're on the pursuit of more?
I would say, honestly, man, just have faith in yourself and the higher power. No matter what situation you're in, no matter how big or small it is, like, you have to have faith in yourself. You know, if you don't believe in yourself, you're already lost. But then, you know, there's times where you've done everything and you still haven't gotten to that point. Now you got to have faith in the higher power to give you the rest of that, to get you to the extra little push to get to the finish line. So I would just say, I mean, at the end of the day, just have faith and believe in yourself, because that's what you need to make anything happen.
That's a solid bar. Man, I can like think of stories too, but I can't go into them. That's the truth, man. And where can they find you on social media as well?
Yeah, Instagram. My Instagram is mdbacon_.
Is it? Are you sure? You didn't say that like you were very sure.
Yeah, it's mdbacon. D
about
as
to
a
check.
dog, bacon_.
Man, I have totally forgotten also that his last name is Bacon.
Yeah.
I
The one and
totally
only
forgot until Josh said it. Because it's like, Josh is still in my phone, just Josh Roomy. It's been 5-6 years, however long it's been.
Yeah.
But man, thank you for coming on. And what's
course.
really
Thank
cool
you for having
about
me.
like us naturally being on this is like this is full of like golden nuggets, and we're just sitting here doing.
We're
our
just
thing.
talking like we regularly would.
Yep.
That's
Regular
what, yeah, we
conversation.
should just have like a sit-in where people could just come and chill
Yeah.
like while we have these same conversations.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you left your last message, and the only thing that I would say to add on top of that, you know, is find ways. If you don't have that faith, you have lost. So you got to find ways to cultivate it in yourself. Little wins. It doesn't matter if it's making the right decision for food or workouts or looking in the mirror a different way. Find the little wins that, oh, I'm a little better today.
Yeah.
I'm a little better right now than I was 5 minutes ago. And if you just continue chasing a little bit to better, then you'll be able to see the bigger picture. Because I've struggled with that on the big picture, because it's like you see your current wins, like you said, but it's nothing compared to where you see yourself. Don't let that dig you into a hole, and understand that as the black sheep of the family, you cannot give up.
Exactly.
Continue that faith and continue living the way you're living, and being an inspiration for all of us.
Sure.
Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate y'all.
So, guys, if you just watched this entire episode on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe. It's free, and also it helps us get our rankings up. And based on the golden nuggets you got from this episode, leave a review on iTunes. Those two things are going to allow us to get this to as many people as possible. Our goal is for our show to reach 1 million people per week. And the only way that's going to happen is through those reviews and subscriptions, through those downloads, so that way we can do bigger Million Mondays. So this episode and all episodes usually come out on a Monday, on a Friday, and we use the hashtag Million Monday, hashtag it on Instagram, and also tag us at MindFluxed, MindFluxed. I'm one of your hosts at Tristan is Thinking. You can find our producer at Benji Got Beats. Where can they find you, Josh?
IG at I am Josh Matthews.
And you already know where to find Michael at MDBacon_. Boom, I got it memorized. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Peace.